Guys, good to see you. It's good to be back with the team this morning. Had really good meetings, and the walkthrough was pretty spirited. And so guys are ready to get back to work. Film was tough to watch, but a lot to learn from. Take any questions you guys got.
Dave, we talked about the fourth downs the other day, and you mentioned it's kind of built into who y'all are. And, obviously y'all go for it a lot every year.
Yeah.
Does it also show some faith in the defense in case you don't convert it, like you're counting on them to stop them?
You'd like it to be that way. I think to execute all of that the best, that you would like that. You'd like to have the confidence that if you don't get it, that wherever the ball's put down, that you're putting up a fight for them to get 7. And if they get 3, then you can move on with it. But I think we're still working to get that expectation.
A couple injury questions. How is Jackie? And then is Carl any closer to coming back?
Carl's with us today, so he was going through all the things that everyone was going through. So he's got a big smile on his face, so I'm happy for him. And then Jackie wasn't with us. He's still day-to-day.
With Jackie's limited or whatever role it's going to be, like, who do you expect to step up and kind of fill that gap? And I know you talked about some people that have been here for a few weeks that need to kind of get with it.
It's a good question. I think that is the question. Right there is that one. I think there's less struggles on the front of the defense, and just physicality-wise, playing blocks-wise, just things that really would like for us to be beyond at this point. And so we're kind of going back to square one with all of that. We're going to have to be creative, I feel.
Dave, now that the mulligan's out of the way with Auburn, are y'all approaching SMU as like a must-win situation given your front-loaded schedule?
We're looking to play better, and we're looking to start faster, and we're looking to, when we get into adversity, maneuver through that better. I think offensively, there's a lot of positive from this last game, and there's still things that we could play cleaner. I think there's a lot of weapons on the ball, and so the expectations there are really high. And I think special teams-wise, we've had back-to-back games now with the return going the other way, and so there's a lot to clean up there. I think a lot of the guys that were on the field when that was happening were on the field with some of the rushing yards and everything else, and so we've got to be able to clean up their eyes and where they fit and everything. I have to coach that better. So we're just focusing on getting better and getting back out there. Today was a good example of that. There's some good energy today.
Dave, you mentioned the press conference, kind of what you had to do defensively, almost like pick your poison. I can't hear very well, but did you ever think about a spy?
Mm-hmm.
Was that ever like an option, or is that just something that was part of you had to pick your poison?
Yeah, I think we have a friend that's on that staff, and it was like, hey, anytime you see this coverage, just pull up and run. And so a lot of it would be there would be almost run plays where if he saw the coverage, you just taking off and run. So it's kind of unconventional, with the guy we're playing now, it's going to be, hey, third down. It's going to be wide open deals, formations, and there's going to be, hey, this is a passing situation. You got to play spy. A lot of what we saw was it was a run action. He pulls it out. It's a play action pass. He sees that we're running with someone, and he just takes off and runs. So a little bit unconventional that way. Spy would have been really, if we had to get him off the ball, he would have been sucked up in the run and been a non-spy spy. Yeah, I mean, there's opportunities to make plays, and it's just really frustrating that we didn't make them. We've got guys that I know can make those plays, and we got to coach them better so that they can.
Dave, it's been almost a decade since SMU and Baylor have played, but there's, of course, a lot of history between these two teams. Do you feel like it's important to schedule these kinds of games in state rivals, out of conference, or is it just too difficult in this era of college football to do that?
No, I think it is. I think anytime, you have conferences that are just across the landscape, from East Coast to West Coast and from Central to all over, I think it's good to have a rival or to have an opponent that's just down the street. where the stadium can be packed and it can be energized, and there can be, brought back to life some old memories and old games and all. I think I know that was the college football that I grew up with. I know a lot of you guys are that way, so it's good to be able to get into that. I hope to get into that more.
Dave, how do y'all go about getting Josh more involved early on in the game? I could be wrong, but I feel like he wasn't targeted at all in the first half, and I feel like that's something that's got to get going to get up against SMU.
Yeah, I thought they were. I thought their corners were playing a lot of press early in the game, and I thought Josh, towards the end of the game, really did a great job of separating and getting off. I thought the inside of. Whereas the outside was really kind of sticky on the outside, or on the outside was really kind of sticky on the inside. There was a lot of space, and you saw kind of Cole get loose, and you saw Trigg get loose, and so really it was kind of just taking where the grass was. And then once that was kind of operating, and then it opened up some for Josh on the outside. So sometimes you take it as it comes. I think there's probably an opportunity for screens, and some deliberate. I'm gonna get the ball out fast. We didn't know what they were going to play. And so that was part of it, too, was trying to maneuver through and see what it was.
After the game, Kaden mentioned that a result like that should make the guys only want to go harder, not kind of drop their heads. I know it's still early, but were you able to see that today?
Yeah, I think the message to the team is that we're a good team, and we've got a lot of talent, and guys have sacrificed a bunch to get to this point, and we can win a lot of games. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I know our team does. And it just sucks to lose. The negativity that comes with losing and just all of it. But told them to represent, out in class and just on campus and just the whole thing. Be proud of it. We're going to win here soon.
Dave, we didn't see much of Sawyer using his legs to run on offense. Was that by design? Is there any emphasis there for him so far this year?
Nothing yet. I think, he's healthy, and he's, he was running around today. I think the pass rush was pretty good from Auburn particularly on the edges. So I think the pocket was kind of collapsed for him somewhat. But yeah, we can run him if need be, and that's always there.
Dave, back to the fourth downs just for a minute. When you guys decided to sort of be on the forefront of going for it, was that like an analytics thing, like looking at stats and going, this pays off, or was it more of just culture, attitude, like what sort of drove that decision?
It's a good question. It was both, I think you look at it now, where some of the numbers that we're putting up, I don't know if we put them up all the way without going for it on fourth down. And that's not to take away anything from anybody. It's just it's really, really hard to defend an explosive, talented offense that goes for it all four downs and is sometimes on the 30 or on the 40, and these are all just, I think we're naturally inclined to think, what happens if we don't make it, But those are sometimes the hardest calls to make on the other side of it, because you don't want to sell the house because the thing could go all the way, and then, how do you play all of that? And I think it's difficult, puts defenses in a bind, and then so I think that's one part of it. I think the other part is. It does give confidence and an edge to the offense because they know that we're going for it. We're in attack mode all the way. And there's a bunch of second down and third down runs that normally would not be there. There'd be more drop back pass. There'd be more, I think our guys are adept at all of that. I think that's not, I don't think they were born and raised to be drop back pass protectors. They're born and raised to be run defenders and RPOs and all that. And so the whole thing kind of fits us better that way. And then you look at just the numbers of it, and you look at the people that have done it, and their points have gone up and their wins have gone up. The time of possession's gone up. A lot of positives have gone up with it. I think looking at it when it's happening in front of you, on a 30 or 40. There's still that shock value of it. So I understand that.
Were you impressed with what Kaden was able to accomplish in his first collegiate game?
Yeah, I thought, he showed what he had been showing here, and I think, on the practice fields and that, and there's a couple guys that, we were not able to see that from, and so really working to get them on the forefront for this next game, to be able to show out like we know they can. But it was really good to see him capitalize on the moment, and he had some big runs there when we needed him. I thought pass protection-wise, he was where he needed to be. And so there's a lot of positives for him, for a young dude, and everything happening fast, and the bright lights and everything. I think he did a great job.
Dave, some of it might be personnel, like Jackie being out, Carl even being out.
Mm-hmm.
But do you see the run defense as something that's correctable, that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we have to. I think right now we've got, in the past, we would have guys that would be so attuned to how something would fit. Run fits are kind of hard to explain, but every play in design, there's a blocking scheme, and within those blocking schemes there's spaces or gaps, and so it's 11 on 11, and everyone's got a gap, then they fit. And in the past, particularly on the inside, we'd have guys that were just born, to do the addition and subtraction of gaps, and where should I fit, and just all of it. And there's some people that we play that are kind of the math changes so much, it's very difficult to keep up with. And we'd be very good at that aspect of it. If something broke down, if a play broke down, or a play was spilled on the perimeter, or say something wasn't perfect, we would struggle to get the guy down. If the thing was kind of contained and all kind of fenced in, and everything was in the gap that was prescribed originally, we'd knock it down. I think we've got a lot of guys right now where if the thing breaks down, if the thing spills out, if it kind of goes haywire from the beginning, we got guys that can run it down. So we just haven't had that before, really, probably since I've been here. They need to get better when the fences are in and the doors are locked, and this gap's your gap and this gap's my gap, and that. And so we have to be able to teach that better and spend some more time with that. But we've got the guys that can do it.
That being said, not to give away your game plan against Kevin Jennings, but how do you hope to accomplish that against that?
Yeah. I think one of the differences, now it may not be versus us, the quarterback we just played, he was scrambling to run it. So like if he saw a certain coverage, he ran. Where Kevin, a lot of his runs are to throw it, so he'll keep the drive alive, and then he'll make you pay with a ball down the field. There's a bunch of, we would play Brock Purdy, and he would be this way, where he would be scrambling and he'd be running behind the line of scrimmage, but behind time, and there'd be a defender that was covering a back or a tight end, and the defender would see Purdy run this way, and he would come up, and at the same time the defender would come up and leave his coverage. The receiver, the tight end, would go vertical, and it'd be kind of a pop shot there. There's a bunch of that on film with the guy that we're playing, and so there has to be plaster rolls in the back end. There has to be the use of spies and three-man rushes. We got to try to flush them certain ways. And so there'll be the whole gamut going in to try to be able to control them. I think he does a great job of identifying coverage, and he's a very, very adept passer. He's done a great job maturing through all of it, and they've done a great job coaching him because he's impressive to watch.
Auburn had a fair amount of fans in the stands. You mentioned that SMU's just up the street, and obviously there's a lot of Baylor grads in DFW area. I mean, you hoping for a good turnout, and how much does that help when you're on the road and you have some green in the stands? It
helps a bunch. I know that imagine the turnout would be better had we had won the game, and so I feel very much the pressure and the need to win, and so we have to be able to do that. Hopefully there's some fans there to help cheer us on.
You said earlier in fall that Tevin has the ability to
Yeah.
be an elite corner.
Mhm.
I guess what is it about him, maybe his mindset, personality, that has allowed him to be so consistent when he's healthy over the 5 years he's been here?
Yeah, I think the healthy thing is the main thing there. I think he's very fast. He's very smart. I think early on, probably could have more physicality here and probably a harder hit needed there. And he's addressed that. And he's improved in that facet. I think Paul's been really good for him because I think Gonzalez is driving him pretty hard. And I think there's times where Tevin gets uncomfortable, which is a good thing, you know. And so I think his best football's still ahead of him for all the years that he's been playing football because I think he's getting pushed to growth. And, you know, I think the top level for him is at the top of the route, he's making a play. He's coming down with the ball. He'd be a guy that all through the mechanics of the initial start, the release, the stem, the run is all where he needs to be. He needs to be able to top it off and make the play at the top.
Are there any specific players you have in mind that will fulfill Jackie's role in case he's not ready for Saturday?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're still trying to find that out right now. I think there's a couple things that we're looking at, and so based upon, you know, personnel groupings and things. But yeah, we have to get much better there. I think that's really big. Of all the disappointments, it's probably the biggest one.
Coach, you mentioned the value of having a rivalry with a nearby team. Has there been any discussion or thought of continuing this series more consistently beyond this year after the Iron Skillet with TCU's in there?
Not to my knowledge, there hasn't.
Dave, what's it like to, I don't know, Roman, your son plays linebacker at Midway and had his debut, and made a great tackle, had a big...
I saw it, yeah.
Yeah. Do you miss being able to be there and
Yeah.
at the game, and what's that like as he's launched his little career?
Yeah, last week was, I mean, my daughter moved, my wife moved both my daughters in to Madison last week. And so my oldest girl is a junior there. My middle girl is a freshman there. And so she drove my middle girl, Jordan, up to Madison, got there, moved her into her dorm, moved my older girl into her apartment with her sorority, and then got a flight, came back, went to my son's game. I was not part of any of that. and then we lose on top of it. So that sucks. All of that sucks. Yeah. And so I think, yeah, what's fun is when I get home late at night, I'll pop on the iPad, I'll be watching film, and he's sitting next to me on the couch. My wife is watching Bravo or whatever it is, and he's watching film. And so that's pretty cool to see. He's got the bug right now.
Do you kind of allow yourself to think about how big a win would be over a playoff team from last year, a ranked team, just kind of what that can do for you guys moving forward?
You know, I would certainly respect the opponent. And I've known Coach Lashley for a long time. He's just an awesome dude, and much respect for him personally. And he's got a great program there, and all of it. So the thing with us is we just have to get better. There are things that are in our control. You know, the opponent sometimes ain't, you know, but there's things that are in our control that we have to do better. And I think if we do those things and play the standard of that, what we can, what we're capable of, then all the other things are going to fall into place. And so the emphasis is really on that.
I saw you you were talking to Yahoo Sports and talked about just this era of NIL and how the academic piece is maybe a little bit more challenging now. I was wondering if you can kind of elaborate a little bit on that and just what you've seen and how you've navigated, you know, players getting paid, but then also still seeking an education.
School's really important. I think there's guys that, you know, have, you know, maybe gotten drafted, not gotten drafted, are not with an NFL team anymore, are looking to finish their degree. They call me, right, trying to, is there a way I can finish my degree? You know, they've they've tried this as to get it, for their life. They've tried that, and they're at the end of it. So they call me to get that degree. So the degree is just so important, and I think it's what's hard about it is I think sometimes the money puts distance between how important that is, because you feel like there's a buffer there. But it's just not real. It goes away so fast. And ask the guys that I'm talking to now that have played for us, And so I tell them that story of the multiple guys that call and want to come back and finish, and it's just very important for them to get it. And then I think the whole process of going through school. I remember when I was in school, it was the first time in my life that I told anyone that I have no idea, like, what the hell I'm doing. I have no idea. They're talking about this class. I've been in here for a month. I don't know what they're talking about. I had to tell a learning specialist that. And that was the first time in my life I've ever admitted that to anyone at any point. And so I think you go through those journeys when you're in an academic space of facing kind of your fears and facing the difficulties that kind of inhibit us all. And so I think it's that whole journey is an important one to go on. So we talk a lot about it.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, thank you guys.